Hey y'all, Kenny here with my Thompson Center Encore accuracy tip number 4. Thanks for joining me. So how about the old 44 Magnum, y'all? This is my go-to cartridge for deer under 150 yards. Makes big holes and stuff. Now last year I tested this rifle with the Hornady XTP bullet. I tested it in one video at close range just to see how it would hold up at 25 yards. And then I did another video that was long range test all the way out to 300 yards. You might find those videos interesting. I've included a link in the description. As promised, I'm going to show you today how to trim the chamber end of your barrel. You don't need a lathe, you don't need a milling machine, no special tools to get a professional looking job. Now the only reason you would do this is if you did not have enough clearance between your frame and your barrel, or the firing pin bushing and the barrel. Now, I don't know how common this problem is. I've read about it several times in some of the Encore forums. I've had to cut 2 barrels off, but what I found out later is that it's more of a problem with the receiver than it is with the barrel. But since we can't machine a receiver, the barrel is the only way to fix it. So before I go to the shop, there are a couple things I want to mention, a little tip salad if you will. And I'll try to be brief. I know there are a lot of people out there who own an Encore. They bought it, put a scope on it, got a couple boxes of factory ammo, zeroed it, and it shot 1-inch groups. And they watch these videos and wonder what this old guy's talking about. But most Encores need some work if you want them to shoot well. Mine all shot 1.5-inch, 2-inch groups. And you know, that's good enough for most hunters. But I'm never satisfied with that. I like for my rifles to drive tacks, and so if you're going to get tack driving accuracy out of this, you're going to have to do a little bit of work on it. One other thing I want to mention before we go to the shop, and I should have mentioned this in the first video, but if you have a problem barrel, the first thing I would recommend that you do is take the forearm off and shoot it without a forearm. Now I know that sounds a little bit sketchy, it did to me, but it's perfectly safe. But again, you are the captain of your own ship. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it. But once you get your rifle shooting well without the forearm, then you can put the forearm on and deal with that. Now I have one barrel that's still a work in progress with the forearm mounted. The forearm seems to be an amplifier of other problems, but I'm still working on that, and I'm going to address the forearm before I end this video series. Now for the main event, trimming the barrel, and that is the job that I did on this 30-06 barrel. Now I'm going to recommend that you take the lock and lug and the extractor out. I left this extractor in, as you can see, and you can cut the barrel off with it in, but I got a lot of old grit and stuff down in there and I had to take it out anyway. So I would say go ahead and take it out to begin with. Then you can kind of plug up the hole, and also the hole for your lock and lug, so you don't have such a tough job cleaning everything up. Your extractor's held in with a 1/16 of an inch roll pin. You'll just drive that out and remove the extractor. The lock and lug's held in with a 3/32 pin. You put it down on a block of wood or something and drive that pin out, but don't pull your punch out until you press this in. If you pop that punch out, your lugs and springs will go flying across the room. So this is my little tool that I use to true up the end of that barrel. I just took an 1 3/8 hole saw and sawed a plug out of a piece of plywood, but it doesn't have to be round. You could just cut it square. You don't have to go to that trouble. This is a 1/4 inch hole drilled through the center with a 1/4 inch dowel glued in. Now I just whittled this one out with a pocket knife because I didn't have any dowel on hand, but leave it sticking out enough because this is going to be your pilot to keep this sanding disc from dancing around on the barrel. My pilot for the gun barrel is just an old 30-06 case. I ground the head of it down so that it's plenty below flush on my barrel when I stick it in the chamber. Then I drilled a 1/4 inch pilot hole through the primer pocket. Now this thing's kind of hard to hold and drill. If you grab it with pliers, you're going to mar it all up. If you'll just take a board and drill a hole about the same size as your case and then saw a slot through that, You can stick this in the hole and clamp this down with a C-clamp, and it'll hold your case and you'll not warp it up. So there's the case inserted in the barrel, and mine fits good and tight. It don't rotate when I spin my sanding disc in it. If yours does, put a little piece of masking tape on one side so that it fits tight. You can push it back out with a cleaning rod when you're finished. So your pilot is going to fit right in the case head, and that will keep it from moving around on the end of the barrel when you're sanding. So you can go about this two ways. You can cut all the metal off using a sanding disc. You can start out with, say, some 120 and go to 180, 220, 320, 400, and you can even go to a high polish if that's what you want. Now my sanding paper is just glued onto this. You could use double-sided tape. I just use some white glue. It's pretty easy to peel the paper off and change paper, so no big deal there. But you can also file this off with a file. You need to stop periodically and check your clearance. Put your pen in your frame and take a measurement. What is the minimum? Well, I said 5 thousandths in the other video, and I say that based on the fact that you need that much to measure your head space with a filler gauge. But I go ahead and cut mine until I have about 10 thousandths of clearance, and that way I know I'm safe. I think I covered everything you need to know to trim the chamber end of your barrel. If I missed anything, you can leave a question in the comments. If you have a muzzle that's boogered up on your rifle, I did a recrown on my 223 barrel. I don't have a lathe, so you might want to check that video out. The results of that were really surprising. Also, I'm going to have a reloading video coming up specifically for the Encore, and also I'll cover the forearm and the hinge pin. And so go ahead and subscribe now so you'll get notifications for those videos. And again, thanks for watching.